So when Casa de Corazon first began, what was the moment you realized you were building something much bigger than yourself? Honestly, it was at my very first center. There was a mom who had a newborn baby. She was just returning to work. She was a first-time mom. And there was this day in her very second week of attendance where she dropped off her daughter and she saw me in the hallway on her way out. And she said to me, "Natalie, I love that I don't have to feel guilty about returning to work because I believe that my daughter is getting a better experience here than I could even provide her as a stay-at-home mom." That was the moment that I knew I had to grow this program to more than one location. I'm Natalie Standridge, founder and franchisor of Casa de Corazon Intercultural Early Learning. This is a space where you'll not only hear, but also see the stories of so many entrepreneurs and collaborators who've inspired me into becoming a source of inspiration in my industry. Here, you'll discover innovators in the early childhood education sector, and you'll get access to testimonies from alumni, friends, and colleagues who've remained behind the scenes for years, but from there have played a crucial role in this journey. If you're looking to build something that truly lasts, you're in the right place. I'm ready to share with you the real stories of not only how we've disrupted an industry from the inside out, but how we've done it with intention and purpose. Let's dive in. So today, I want to do something unique. This episode is a monologue set up as a dialogue between two parts of myself that don't always get the chance to speak with each other. On one side, there's the Natalie, the business-minded professional who always thinks about the next big innovation, how to expand, how to build an organization that really leaves a mark. And on the other side, there's Esther, the more sensitive part of me, the one that never loses connection with my purpose, the reason I got into this crazy world of entrepreneurship to begin with. She never loses sight of what it truly means to lead with heart. Esther, shall we begin? Of course, Natalie. It's always important to start at the root, right? I'd like to ask you something I don't hear you say very often. Where did the idea of Casa actually come from? I believe that the most unique businesses are built by people just trying to solve a problem that they themselves have. I remember when I had my first child and I was a working mom and I wanted to keep working, but I wanted a childcare environment that aligned with my values, that aligned with my priorities. And I couldn't find anything that fit for me. I ended up placing her in a care environment that I didn't really feel comfortable with, and I struggled. This taught me the importance of providing extremely high quality early childhood education for working parents so that they can go and contribute to the workforce and fulfill their career goals guilt-free. It ignited a passion in me to create the organization that today is Casa de Corazon. So when Casa de Corazon first began, what was the moment you realized you were building something much bigger than yourself? That's a good question, Esther. Honestly, it was at my very first center. There was a mom who had a newborn baby. She was just returning to work. She was a first-time mom. And there was this day in her very second week of attendance where she dropped off her daughter and she saw me in the hallway on her way out. And she said to me, "Natalie, I love that I don't have to feel guilty about returning to work because I believe that my daughter is getting a better experience here than I could even provide her as a stay-at-home mom." That was the moment that I knew I had to grow this program to more than one location. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I love hearing that side of you, the one that recognizes the balance between business opportunities and value-based work. Speaking of that, how do you manage the balance of innovation with your love for education? Seems like sometimes those two paths would be in conflict. Well, it hasn't been easy. In 2002, when I began early childhood language immersion, it was not a popular concept. Immigration to Minnesota was at a much earlier stage than it is today, and some people were pretty resistant. The common belief at the time was that if you exposed a young child to a second language, they would experience delays in the learning of their first language. But in all other developed countries in the world, we were already doing this. So I had to be brave. I had to trailblaze a new concept. And now So many more families are on board with this. They're understanding the research about the positivity in brain development for young children if they are exposed to more than one language. I find that no matter how much we grow, I always think about the teachers, the children, their families, how every small step we take impacts their lives in the long term. I remember it wasn't easy in the beginning. There were moments of doubt, right? Definitely. There were days when I wondered if all this effort would be worth it. Leading a team of 30, then 60, then 90, later up to 150 employees at one point is very different than the work I thought I was getting into, educating children. But innovation in education is not a straight line. It's not just about implementing new technologies or strategies. It's about adapting those innovations to the human context. Every time I doubted, you, Esther, would remind me of the stories of families whose lives had been changed thanks to Casa de Corazon. So Natalie, what was the hardest part about starting a business in such a delicate sector like Spanish immersion early childhood ed? Oh, the hardest part. I'd have to say the lack of social, political, and community supports at that time. Up until the global pandemic, when everybody realized that early childhood education is a pillar of society that all other industries break down without, this industry was chronically undervalued and underappreciated and underpaid. Now with governmental entities starting to support us and the teachers that we employ so that we can provide stable work at a living wage and above, things are getting a lot better for educators at all levels. Was there anything that surprised you in the beginning? Oh, the most surprising thing was how much the program I was creating impacted teachers' lives. You know, I thought I was creating a program for children, maybe their families. But when professionals that were choosing this industry found a place where they could not only share their education, but also their culture, started expressing that gratitude to me, it was surprising, but also one of the most meaningful parts of the development of my program. I'm curious, how do you manage franchise prospects' expectations in a business that has so much heart? You know, sometimes that's a balancing act. Prospects want to see results, but if they're good prospects, aligned with what we do, they also know that Casa de Corazon is an organization built on core values, that we're not just selling a service, we're living a mission. And that mission is actually what makes the business sustainable over time. Okay, and can you share with me, what is the worst piece of advice someone has ever given you in business? That one's super easy. Someone once told me to stop worrying so much about company culture and focus more on the finances and the bottom line. Well, that seemed like a mistake to me because without a strong culture, there's no sustainable business. In the end, financial success comes as a result of strong organizational culture. And what's the best piece of advice you ever received? Oh, that one was from my dad. He said, do what you love and love what you do. Because many adults, especially entrepreneurs, spend half of their waking hours at work. You better do something you love with people that inspire you day in and day out. What would you say to future Natalie, say 5 years from now? I would tell her, never lose sight of why this all started. Keep innovating, keep pushing the boundaries, but always remember that at the core of everything, it's about the people, the families who trust us, the franchise owners and team members whose lives are profoundly changed by the opportunity to do this work. It's been fun to hear this conversation between our two sides, Natalie. Sometimes we think that innovation and empathy can't go hand in hand, but this dialogue has shown us that they really are two sides of the same coin. Exactly. We can't innovate without thinking about the human impact, and we can't truly impact without finding new ways to do so. Thank you for joining me today on this internal dialogue. I would say the biggest takeaway is that you really can't separate the head from the heart if you're going to have an intentional business. If you enjoyed this episode, I encourage you to subscribe and share on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube at Casa Early Learning. We'll have fresh episodes just for you on a regular basis.